think this looks like a pretty good starting point. Stephanie, if you're ready, I will continue to let latecomers in, but I think we can probably get started.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Rebecca. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Stephanie Ellis. I'm the Executive Director of WildCare, and I'm thrilled that you're all here. We were sad that we couldn't host this event in person as we have for the last 23 or so years, but thrilled that you can join us from the safety and comfort of your own living room and have a wild winter night in. Just a few things before we get started. If you can please mute your audio. We are also going to mute you, but just a reminder. Also, you can use the chat function if you have any questions for the speakers or for me. You're welcome to use the chat, and Rebecca, our Director of Marketing, is going to moderate and answer some questions from there. Also, this program is being recorded, just to let you all know, and so it will be available to watch at a later time and share. It will be available on WildCare's YouTube page, which is WildCare Cape Cod. And let's see, I just want to make sure I haven't forgotten anything. I'm extremely excited that you're here because we have three incredible speakers this evening, and it's three women who are doing amazing things for wildlife on Cape Cod, and they also have been a personal inspiration to me. And so we're going to introduce them in just a few moments, but I'd like to start off the evening with a very special 8-minute video which features some important voices of WildCare. I do not have audio.
And it was like it was mayhem. It was crazy. And because it's nearby and we can help people who are closer physically to us. So I went down there and it was crazy. Everyone, there was, the terrified salesperson, there was the understanding, want to help animals, and there was the manager who was obviously afraid it was going to poop on things. But that was pretty exciting for everyone. And I was recognized in that store for about 3 years as the person who came to help them during the hawk.
It is really, really fun to feed chimney swifts because chimney swifts hang on things instead of perch. And so they're usually, when they're old enough to be fed by volunteers, which I am, they'll be in a shed and they're hanging on screens and nets and whatever. But as soon as you show up with food, they hang on you. And so it's really quite delightful because all of a sudden you have these, they're hanging on your hair and they're hanging on your clothes, they're hanging on your glasses and they're hanging on your ears. And so and they're all little babies with mouths going, blah, 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 take a mile a minute. And so you're trying to feed them in your hair and feed them on your sweater or your shirt or whatever. So feeding chimney swifts is really, really delightful. It's a blast.
I've always loved the Cape, like many people who summered here, and have a real feeling for it. So I'm glad to be able to participate in something like WildCare, where you give back a little bit, and not incidentally, where you learn all the time. I learn something every day when I'm there.
When I came across WildCare, I was like, oh my goodness, this is so amazing that they're doing this work. And the work that they do is so incredible and just very loving and nurturing and friendly. And I love this organization.
As a young man that grew up on the Cape, I've long been someone who's been an advocate of the outdoors. I'm a fisherman. I spent a lot of time hiking the trails and the beaches and certainly spent a lot of time on the water. Became involved with WildCare many years ago, actually probably right around when WildCare first started looking at the facility in Orleans, and really took an interest in WildCare and what they were doing because it really resonated and spoke to me as to a relationship similar to what I felt here with the Cape and the interests. taking care of the wildlife, the birds, any sort of the aquatic animals as well. Any organization that's interested in preserving our environment, our sandy beaches, our waterways, the dunes, and certainly any of the wildlife that lives within that is something that I want to support.
People on the Cape love wildlife. There's lots of wildlife here on the Cape, and people who live here or visit really appreciate and respect the wildlife. So WildCare is an organization that protects that wildlife. And the wildlife are around us all the time, and people are always running into something that is in need. It's either injured or orphaned or sick. And I think they appreciate having a place to call when they find an animal in need. So that's one important role that we play. But we also educate the public. We have found that almost 50% of the animals that come to us are due to negative human interactions. So we want to teach people how to live in harmony with their wildlife neighbors, because it can be done, and it can be done better. So
the joy I get from WildCare is that people are learning, and it's sad to see the animals come in the way they are, but that's not how I approached WildCare at first. I just wanted to help the little animals and, you know, be there for them. And now I feel like I'm helping the people so the animals can get helped and understood, because the animals need to be understood, especially when we make all these conservation areas for them. And we really can't complain about them.
I just think the educational portion of what WildCare does is so important. The more I get to know about their work, the more excited I am, and the more I really want to help support them with my business, with Dune Jewelry and different fundraisers we can do together. There's just so much synergy. And I'm excited to see what we can do now and in the future.
Tell you, in the last year, the most important thing that WildCare did was not ever interrupt its service. We got through baby season. If baby season, the census of patients at WildCare probably goes from 30 to 130. And that new 100 all needs to be fed by hand by volunteers. So we had the usual number of babies in baby season and not the usual number of volunteers. But somehow WildCare was able to deploy spaces and people and get it all done. It's simply extraordinary. It's what really mattered in 2020.
People that live here do care about the environment and about the animals that live here. And it's such a special place, and that's reflected in people's attitudes. I think this past year, just being able to keep the doors open is a huge accomplishment. Engaging with the public through live Facebook videos, providing information. I think and trying to provide, Stephanie's done a lot of educational programming via Zoom. It is really amazing to me how we were able to just, as well as many other companies, just pivot and make the best of a horrible situation. And we have amazing rehabilitators that were willing to come in and keep the doors open. It's all about them. Without them, it wouldn't have happened.
one thing that I think most people who know about WildCare don't realize is that we are supported solely by donations and grants and fundraising. We don't get any state or federal money. So we really appreciate people making donations, whether it's donation of money or goods or services. And I just want to say this past year with COVID-19, the generosity of people has been overwhelming. We stayed afloat throughout this virus because of people's generosity.
I love that video. I'm just going to share my screen here. And I'd like to give a thanks. That heartfelt video was created by some people who are really special to WildCare. They are Garvey Communication Associates, Inc. And this is Darcy Young on the left and John Garvey. They've been supporting WildCare since 2017, and they actually conducted the interviews and put together this beautiful video. And so we really, really appreciate them. They are animal lovers, and we named our educational turtle Garv after John Garvey, who is a turtle lover. I also want to say thank you to our incredible sponsors for this event. Without them, we could not have made this happen. These sponsors are also featured on our website, wildcarecapecod.org, and you can find all of the names of the businesses and individuals who supported us on our Facebook page. Big shout out to all of them for their kindness and generosity. Okay, I am going to introduce Rebecca Banis in just a moment. And I first want to thank the local businesses and individuals who also donated to Wild Winter Night. This year, it was a very different format. Of course, because we're virtual, not in person, but we have a simultaneous auction that is taking place where people can bid and make donations. And so we actually had over 70 businesses and individuals donate items to us for our auction, which Rebecca is going to talk about. And I love this photo because the sparrow looks like it's absolutely leaping for joy, which is exactly how we feel about all of this support and about having you guys with us this evening. Okay. So I would now like to introduce Rebecca Banis. She is our Director of Marketing, Outreach, and Events, and she is going to give you a few announcements and then introduce our speakers for the evening. Oops, and you are on mute. Can't hear you.
All right, there we go. I was letting a few late folks in, so welcome to those of you that are just joining us. As Stephanie said, my name is Rebecca. I am the Director of Outreach, Marketing, and Events at WildCare. It is absolutely a dream job for me, so I'm very excited to be here with all of you. I'm going to go over a few housekeeping things with you. You'll hear me in between your speakers. I'm going to highlight some fun auction items, and I'll be sending you guys some information through the chat function. Also, as Stephanie said, this will be recorded, so you don't have to remember everything and take notes tonight. You'll be able to reference this later this week. But if you do have questions, you can send them to me. And as we're going through, I will try to field them to our speakers if it's appropriate and we have extra time to do so. I want to tell you about our staff wish list. When you go to our SL Events auction, which I'm going to share that link with you shortly, you will be able to see we have our sponsors listed on there, so you should check them out, our auction, and also a staff wish list. One of the things on there is Arlo cameras. You've probably seen some of their footage on our Facebook, maybe on our Instagram. Certainly on our website and our YouTube channel. It is a great way for us to check in on our nocturnal patients and make sure that they're doing all right when we are not on property. And it's also a great way if we have an animal that is stressed out for us to not have to interact with them physically and give them the space that they need so that they can start their healing process and we can check in on them and be sure that they're doing all right without actually having to be in the same room with them. So that is something that we're highlighting and sort of doing a fund the need for, and that's listed under our staff wish list. I also want to tell you about an amazing auction item, Hatch House. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it's amazing. It's on the National Seashore in Wellfleet. I'm going to share a link with you guys so you can check it out directly after our next speaker. Or after the event, maybe. You can enjoy a 2-night stay in Hatch Cottage located on the National Seashore. It's close to walking trails, and the Hatch Cottage is a peaceful retreat. It also has no internet, so you're gonna have to totally check out if you get that one. So I would like to, oh, you know what? Before we get started, for those of you that got one of these, I have props for the whole night, so get ready. This is our party in a pail. Thank you to everyone that purchased one of these. I'm going to thank our sponsors throughout the night, but if you got one of these, now is a great time to fill this with the beverage we gave you or one of your choice. So if you crack open your wine, I also want to say a quick thank you to 7G's Liquors. They're in Barnstable and in Dennis. They made a very generous donation that allowed us to do the Party in the Pail this year, and also to Liquor and More, they helped us as well. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to our first speaker, Kathy Zagzebski. She is currently at Karen Beasley Sea Turtle Rescue and Rehabilitation Center, but formerly she was here on the Cape with us at National Marine Life Center. Welcome.
Thank you, Rebecca. I hope everyone can see my screen. I am so excited to be here and to be included in tonight's World of Wildlife. I've been a fan of Wildcare as long as I've known about it, which is pretty much the whole time I was on Cape Cod. And I've been going to Wild Winter Night and enjoyed that event for several years now. So it's great to be able to participate. I'd love to see you all in person, but as somebody who is currently in North Carolina, I actually am grateful for the opportunity to participate remotely via Zoom. So what I want to talk to you tonight about are sea turtles, which are iconic on Cape Cod and in North Carolina. So sea turtles are a big part of our annual wildlife cycle on the Cape. There are actually 7 species of sea turtles worldwide, and all of the sea turtles are threatened or endangered. Sea turtles are reptiles. They breathe air, so they have to come to the surface to breathe. They cannot breathe underwater, so plastic in our oceans and plastic that traps these animals underwater can be a serious threat. Sea turtles, as reptiles, they lay eggs, and they are laying eggs and nesting on tropical and temperate shorelines. So not in Cape Cod, yes, in North Carolina. And sea turtles are ectothermic or cold-blooded. And this means that their body temperature depends on the temperature of the environment around them. And so, of course, in Cape Cod, one of the biggest annual events that we have is winter. So an ectothermic or cold-blooded animal definitely gets into trouble during the winter. These are some of the species of sea turtles. These are the 4 primary species of sea turtles that we have off the coast of Massachusetts, and as an aside, also off of North Carolina. The Kemp's Ridley turtle is the animal that strands most frequently on Cape Cod. The loggerhead turtle strands second most frequently. Every year we get a couple of greens in Cape Cod, and very occasionally a leatherback stranding. So just to tell you a little bit more about the sea turtles of Cape Cod, the Kemp's Ridley is the smallest of the sea turtles. As an adult, it's only about 100 pounds. But when we see them on Cape Cod, we see them as juveniles. So most of the sea turtles, most of the Kemps that strand on Cape Cod are juveniles, weighing less than 10 pounds in many cases. While their lifespan is unknown, these animals don't reach sexual maturity until about 14 years of age. They have a varied diet: crabs, fish, jellyfish, and mollusks, and they are found throughout the East Coast. They nest in a phenomenon called an aribata. So most sea turtles nest. Individually, they'll come ashore and nest, but an aribata is where hundreds and thousands of sea turtles nest in the same place at about the same time. And it's a tremendous event. You can see definitely videos on the internet. And these Kemp's Ridleys are the most endangered sea turtle in the world, and they're the one that strands most often on Cape Cod. The loggerhead turtle is a medium-sized turtle. As an adult, they can get to be 250 pounds or more. They don't reach sexual maturity until 25 to 35 years old. They do have a varied diet, but they prefer whelks and conchs. And they are circumglobal. They are found throughout the world's ocean. All loggerheads are threatened, and some populations are endangered. The green turtle is the second largest of the sea turtles. They can weigh up to 350 pounds. They reach sexual maturity sometimes not until they're 40 or 50 years old. And as an adult, these animals are exclusively herbivorous. They eat seagrasses. As hatchlings and young and juveniles, they actually are more omnivorous, meaning they eat they can eat both plants and animals. Um, they have a global distribution. And the name green turtle, although they can look a little bit green, actually comes from the color of their fat, not from the color of their exterior or their shell. Because as an adult, they are herbivorous, they eat seagrasses, they eat plants. It actually turns their fat on the inside somewhat green. And so that's where they got the name of green sea turtles. And of course, these animals, like the other sea turtles, are endangered. The last animal that we have regularly in Cape Cod is the leatherback turtle. And this is the largest of the sea turtles. It's also the largest reptile. They can weigh over 1 ton or over 2,000 pounds. Their lifespan, they're actually a little bit younger at sexual maturity, which is a little bit interesting since they're the biggest turtle, but they actually do reach sexual maturity about age 16. And these animals, they prefer jellyfish. So they like the soft-bodied animals, the jellyfish, the salps. And so one of their biggest threats is, plastic bag that looks like a jellyfish in water. They have a worldwide distribution and they can tolerate colder temperatures. Now, Cape Cod really is a stranding hotspot for sea turtles, and we have hundreds and sometimes well over 1,000 sea turtles that strand every year. Sea turtles can strand for a lot of reasons. Here in North Carolina, where I am, we see a lot of variety of reasons why animals strand. They can get diseases. A fiber papilloma is a serious disease for sea turtles. They can get bit by a shark, other injuries, entanglement, as we see in this picture. Plastic injection, like we talked about with the loggerheads, but all sea turtles will eat plastic. Um, but the main reason why sea turtles strand specifically in Cape Cod is because of a phenomenon known as cold stunning. So what happens is these turtles hatch much farther south in tropical waters and temperate waters, basically North Carolina and south through the Caribbean. And when they hatch, their goal is to get out to the ocean and to get to the warm ocean currents. Once they get to the Gulf Stream, then they basically spend the next few years of their lives floating around the Gulf Stream. And life is good in the Gulf Stream. It's warm. They don't have to work too hard to swim around. There's lots and lots of food. There's a lot of sargassum or seaweed, and the little hatchling turtles and juvenile turtles can hide in the seaweed. What happens though, as they start to get a few years old, these juvenile turtles really their diet needs change. In the case of Kemps, they really want to start eating bigger prey like crabs. They're crabivores, and so they want to come closer to shore. Well, what's happening, especially with climate change, is even though the Gulf Stream is far offshore in Massachusetts, climate change and differing ocean climates have created these warm water bridges that can encourage the turtles to actually come close to shore into Cape Cod Bay. Now, in the summertime, Cape Cod Bay is a great place to be if you're a turtle or a person. Um, and that's great habitat, great environment. But in Massachusetts, there's this lovely phenomenon that we call winter that we have to deal with every year. And as a cold-blooded reptile, that can be deadly. So what happens as fall comes around, the sea turtles ideally would get up and around and travel south for the winter. However, as you can see, it's pretty easy to get stuck inside this hook of Cape Cod Bay. Now, the National Marine Life Center is located on the Cape Cod Canal, and I frequently took questions about why don't they take the canal to go south. But if you look at this image with a graphic from NOAA, the canal is actually quite a ways up in Cape Cod Bay, and it runs east-west. So it's not instinctive for these animals to go through the canal to migrate south. Um, As the water gets colder and colder and colder, these sea turtles get severely hypothermic or cold stunned, which is a specialized condition that happens when a sea turtle gets too cold. Now, there have been some wonderful organizations responding to sea turtle strandings for well over 30 years on Cape Cod. This past season was the second highest sea turtle stranding season ever. It was the second highest season yet in Massachusetts. There were over 1,000 animals. And that includes 947 Kemp's Ridley turtles. It also, in these on the pictures on the right, the top is a Kemp's Ridley turtle right off the beach in rehabilitation at the National Marine Life Center. The bottom is a picture of the National Marine Life Center's Marine Animal Discovery Center, their visitor center for the public, which is normally closed during the winter. Especially with COVID, but this year we were closed for a different reason. We turned the whole Discovery Center into a triage hospital, into a field hospital for the numbers of these endangered turtles. We had this year there were the highest number of live strandings in the state of Massachusetts, and that was 664 of these over 1,000 animals did strand alive. Now, it really takes a village to rehabilitate a sea turtle or any wildlife, and there are a lot of people working towards conservation and conserving sea turtles in Massachusetts and beyond. So, NOAA and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Agency are the federal agencies that have jurisdiction over sea turtle stranding response, rehabilitation, release, research, everything. But there are lots of nonprofit organizations involved. On Cape Cod, the Mass Audubon Wellfleet Bay Wildlife Sanctuary patrols all the beaches in the best beach walking winter weather of Halloween through New Year's Day, nor'easters, doesn't matter. These intrepid volunteers and staff are on the beach looking for these cold stunned turtles. The animals then go into critical care or triage care. And up until this past year, the New England Aquarium was the only agency within Massachusetts that provided this emergency care or triage care. Because of the increase in strandings, the National Marine Life Center was invited to actually learn this role and participate in this role. And in the 2019-2020 season, we had a little bit of a pilot, and then we've been working collaboratively with Wellfleet Bay, the New England Aquarium, and NOAA since July of last year, having conversations and really ramping up. And as it resulted, the National Marine Life Center itself was able to take in about a third of those live animals. They took in 216 sea turtles over the course of the season, and it was really helpful to ease the burden, especially in a COVID year. And we did keep operating during COVID. It was important for us to continue to help wildlife like wild care. Then once the animals are stabilized, they go into long-term rehabilitation, and that might mean continuing their rehab process at the New England Aquarium or the National Marine Life Center. And it also means, however, because within Massachusetts, there are not enough rehabilitation pools or beds, if you will, that to handle the number of sea turtles that strand in Massachusetts. So NOAA works with the New England Aquarium and the National Marine Life Center to transfer animals once those organizations have stabilized them to secondary rehabilitation facilities out of state. And this ongoing rehabilitation, it can be as long as a couple of years. It might be a couple of months to a couple of years, depending on the medical condition of the animal. And I'm pleased to say that at my new organization, the Karen Beasley Sea Turtle Rescue and Rehabilitation Center here in North Carolina, we have 5 loggerheads that came from the New England Aquarium. So I'm glad to still have my Massachusetts turtles here. Now, why do sea turtles matter? They're keystone species, they're indicator species, they're symbols of One Health and of conservation, and they really help to inspire and teach youth. As keystone species, that concept really means that these animals are critical to the ecosystem, and their action or activities or their presence or absence can positively or negatively impact the ecosystem. And one example of sea turtles is that they graze on seagrass beds. Now, you might think that that means that it's actually negative because they're eating all the seagrass, but as a result, the seagrass beds are actually healthier because green turtles graze on them. So that's an example of these turtles being an indicator species, a keystone species. An indicator species is one that is really kind of like a canary in a coal mine, if you've heard that terminology. Sentinels of the ocean ecosystem. Basically, they are what happens to a sea turtle can indicate what might happen to other species, even to humans. And one major problem with sea turtles is ingestion of plastic. And actually, there was a scientific study by Matidi et al. In 2017 that proposed loggerhead turtles as an indicator to help monitor the plastic, the litter that's ingested by all marine organisms in the Mediterranean Sea. And of course, if a fish or an organism like a fish is ingesting plastic, guess what? That means that we're ingesting it too. One Health. One Health is the concept that animal health, ecosystem health, and human health are really interconnected. And we can learn a lot about the health of about things that impact human health by studying the animals. And one example is this cold stun condition that sea turtles get. One complication that can sometimes happen is a condition called osteolysis or osteoarthritis. And this is when the joints at the sea turtles, mostly it's the joints, and it actually erodes away because the blood supply was cut off to the animals. This condition actually also occurs with children with severe hypothermia. So sea turtles have growing bones, children have growing bones. So basically, in helping the sea turtles, we may learn more about this condition that could have implications for helping people in the future. And that's kind of an idea of One Health. And of course, sea turtles are really symbolic symbols of conservation. And I'm sure everybody saw this picture and this video on the internet of the sea turtle with a straw in the nose. And just as somebody involved in marine animal conservation for over 25 years, I have never seen a conservation movement happen so quickly as all of a sudden we were all talking about reducing straws and eliminating single-use plastic straws. And I really credit this social media and the sea turtle with a straw in his nose as really kind of instigating that conservation movement. And then inspiring youth. People love animals, kids love animals, and it can be a really inspirational thing for these kids to really get involved in ocean conservation. Well, wild care does all this too. And the animals of wild care are these keystone species like the dovekie. They're indicator species like flying squirrels. They are involved in One Health like mallards and looking at lead poisoning in mallards. They are symbols of conservation like our beloved piping plovers, and they inspire youth like Up and Nickerson, those wonderful owls. So why do I love wildcare? I mean, besides just the mission and the activities are so close to my heart. I love the people involved. The volunteers are wonderful. And Stephanie, besides being a close personal friend and a professional and a mentor professionally, she's just such an amazing resource to wildlife. And this little squirrel on the bottom is this baby squirrel that showed up in my neighbor's yard actually one night. It was climbing my neighbor's pant leg, and I went out to try to figure out what was going on because, of course, dealing with sea turtles and marine life, you know, everybody called me locally and born if something was going on with any animal. And I'm like, why is this baby squirrel crawling up my leg? And Stephanie said it's probably because it lost its mom. And so her wonderful volunteers accepted that squirrel the next day. It lasted overnight in my basement in a cool, quiet place with instructions per Stephanie, and my neighbor Rita and I drove it out to Wild Care the next day. Now this gorgeous young baby bird that is one of those so ugly it's adorable. I think it looks like a pterodactyl. One day at the National Marine Life Center, these couple of students from Mass Maritime, which is right around the corner, called and said, we have this bird, it landed on the ship, what do we do with it? And so I said, bring it over, we've got volunteers, we'll get it to Wild Care. And they brought it in, and they thought it was a seabird, I thought it was a seabird. It just, I mean, it looks so unusual. Well, I texted this picture to Stephanie and she said, it's a pigeon. I'm like, oh, it's a pigeon. I love pigeons, but it's a pigeon. It's not this like Arctic skua or something like that. But Wild Care, every animal matters, every animal counts, every animal can be a keystone or indicator species or a symbol of conservation. And they welcomed that little adorable pterodactyl into their center. And several months later, Stephanie texted me this picture of the near adult animal that was able to be soft released. So I think Wild Care is an amazing organization. I encourage everybody to donate. I contributed to some of the staff wish list working for nonprofits. I know that you know, it's often people want to buy those you know, really sexy things, if you will, the, you know, the sea turtle incubator and stuff like that. But I actually designated my contribution towards technology because I know how important technology is, and I hope they will be able to use it in whatever way they want, but to buy new technology. And thanks so much for listening tonight and for hearing more about one of my loves, sea turtles, and I look forward to learning more from my other wonderful colleagues and women of wildlife. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Before you mute yourself, I have a couple of questions to field your way.
Okay.
So I have a question from Stephanie Ellis. Are leatherbacks warm-blooded? She's actually read about this.
So leatherbacks are technically they're technically still cold-blooded, but they're kind of in between. They have a physiology that mimics that of warm-blooded animals, so they can tolerate much colder temperatures. So they have what's called a countercurrent heat exchange system, and in their body, it kind of works like a heat pump. And in fact, a lot of our human technology we got by learning from animals and nature. But basically, their blood. At their core, they have arteries, veins formed by arteries. So the veins away. Yeah, so the warmer blood coming from the heart helps to warm the veins going to the heart. And that, so the vein will come in, the arteries will wrap around with warmer blood coming from the heart, helping to warm the veins going to the heart. And this helps the animal tolerate colder temperatures. So it's not exactly warm-blooded, but it's not exactly cold-blooded. I've heard it described as somewhere in between.
Okay. Why don't adult Kemps strand here?
Adult Kemps don't strand because that's Massachusetts isn't where they hang out. So adult Kemps tend to hang out basically much farther south, where they are in like off some of the nesting grounds in the more temperate waters. It's really only the young animals that are in that Gulf Stream, with the Gulf Stream and the warm currents kind of coming all the way north. So the adults are off of the Gulf Stream. They're foraging in more nearshore environments, and as such, they actually need to be in water that's warmer without staying in the ocean currents. They like to eat crabs. Kemps are crabivores, so they'll stay near shore for that.
I love that term, crabivore.
I made it up, but you know, it makes sense.
I like it. We're going to do one more question before I set you free. Is it green sea turtles that you see on the shores of the Big Island in Hawaii?
Yes, that is actually one of the few places where greens will come ashore without nesting. So usually with sea turtles, you know, they hatch, they go to the ocean, and the only sex that ever comes back is the adult females, and they'll come back to basically the same nest or near the same beach on which they were hatched. And otherwise, you know, the juveniles stay offshore, the males stay offshore, everybody stays offshore. But in Hawaii, for whatever reason, and I'll have to do more research to see what the hypotheses are, but green turtles will actually come to the Big Island and bask on the beaches. So they love, you know, they're getting that warmth and sunshine. So I think that's pretty amazing. I haven't seen it personally, but I hope to one day.
Ugh, me too. Let's go together.
Yes, I'm in.
All right. Thank you so much, Kathy.
Thank you.
So before I introduce the next speaker, I am going to say a quick, and if we didn't get to your question, we're going to try to answer questions, sort of we'll email people and add to this presentation after. So if I didn't ask your question, don't be offended. We're just on a bit of a time schedule, and we will try to follow up with people. If we have not answered your question and you kind of need a more immediate, you can always email me. Again, my name is Rebecca, and you can email me at events@wildcarecapecod.org, and I am happy to send your question to whichever speaker you would like to ask it of. So before we move on to our next person, I need to tell you that if you bought a party in a pail, you maybe got this cute patoot, or you maybe got Up and Nickerson. We had these amazing coasters made in a great relationship that we've started with Screencraft Gifts. They are family owned in New England, and we absolutely love them. They are very committed to animals and the environment. So if you got a squirrel, and you also want an owl, or you got an owl and you also want a squirrel, or if you didn't get a party in a pail and now you've seen them and you're just dying to have coasters of your own, which I'm sure you are, they will be for sale on our social media and through our website. Thank you, Kathy. She's modeling hers. We will have them for sale, and it'll be a fundraiser for us moving forward. So we are eternally grateful to Screencraft Gifts. We've also started a wonderful relationship with them. So if you don't follow us on social media, you absolutely should, because we're going to be sending you some awesome savings from them where you can buy gifts for your next amazing holiday. So I also need to say thank you to Karen and Arthur Bajukis. They funded our new sliding glass door for our clinic. So if you go on our staff wish list, you'll see that's one of the things, and the photo now says funded offline. Well, they graciously donated the funds that we needed to be able to get that new slider, because the one we have now is drafty and we cannot use it and our clinic is freezing. So in order for our techs and our animals to stay warm and cozy and dry and go in and out without any incident, we now are getting a new sliding glass door. So we are eternally grateful to them. Thank you both so much for your incredible generosity. But we do have some other things on there that you can absolutely donate to. So go check out our staff wish list after this presentation. I'm also going to tell you about an amazing auction item. We are doing a guided summer tour at WildCare. So why is that important and why is it special? Because WildCare is not open to the public. We are not a petting zoo. We are not the aquarium where you can buy a ticket and go check us out. So this is really an opportunity for you to see behind the curtain. You'll spend some time with Stephanie Ellis, our executive director, and with Jennifer Taylor, who is head of all of our rehab assistants, and she works with a lot of our volunteers too. She is incredibly knowledgeable and can answer almost any question that you have. And if she can't, she'll find the answer for you, I promise. So you will see behind the curtain and get sort of a guided tour about what happens behind the scenes at WildCare and how we do some of the things we do and where we do them, which is really special. And after that, Stephanie and Jennifer are going to take you out to dinner at the Wild Goose in Chatham, which if you haven't eaten there, you're missing out. And Diane, I see you're excited. Me too. I might try to tag along if I'm being honest. So it's one of the auction items we are extremely excited about and very proud of because we love to show off when we have an opportunity. We've made some great improvements. So that's a great thing for you to bid on. I will share that link with you shortly. But since you didn't log on to hear me speak ad nauseum, I am going to introduce our next speaker, Cynthia. Cynthia Wigren is from Atlantic Shark Conservancy, and I'm sure a lot of you are very familiar with her because she's out and about in the public a lot, but we are thrilled to have her with us this evening. So welcome, Cynthia, take it away.
Thank you, Rebecca, and good evening, everyone. It's definitely an honor to be here in the company of the women who are speaking tonight. I'm going to move my little thing out of my way here. And tonight I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about white sharks off the coast of Cape Cod and about the work that Atlantic White Shark Conservancy is doing. This is a map of the distribution of white sharks. This is actually historic data, so data going back to the 1800s. And you can see all of these green dots they represent white sharks. A lot of these, because it's historic data, these are sharks that were caught by fishermen and killed. So that was historic data that was traditionally collected through those kinds of records. But this range is actually the range that we see today. So if you look along the coast of the East Coast, from Florida all the way up to Canada is where we can find great white sharks. White sharks were hunted. They were considered a trophy hunt for recreational fishermen. And the numbers of white sharks, the population was drastically reduced as a result of fishing practices. White sharks were ultimately protected in the 1990s. So in 1997, they were federally protected. And now it is illegal to catch and kill a white shark. And since they have been protected, we're starting to see a recovery of that species. But it is a species that is long-lived. Kathy had talked about some turtles that are late to mature, and that is very similar to white sharks. So it's a species that can live up to 70 years, and it takes a long time for them to reach the age of maturity. So any impact on this population, it can take a very long time for that population to recover. Gray seals are one of the prey source of white sharks. And gray seals historically had been found in US waters from Connecticut up to Maine, but they had been harvested, killed and harvested to the point of local extinction. So at one time, you could not find a gray seal on Cape Cod. Gray seals were protected in the 1970s, so 1972 with the Marine Mammal Protection Act, and that allowed this species to start to repopulate and recolonize areas that it had historically been in before. The recovery of this predator and prey, populations of each of them, is considered a conservation success story. To protect these animals and then to see the population start to recover is something that those of us who are supporting conservation efforts for species across Cape Cod, it's really exciting to see something like this when species do start to come back after being harvested and seeing really population levels reduce significantly. So it's an exciting story for us off the Cape Cod to see these species here. Having an abundance of this prey item and a predator that is also rebounding has created a hotspot off of the coast of Cape Cod for white sharks. And what that means is there is predictable access to these animals here. So you may have heard about different hotspots around the world for white sharks, like South Africa or Australia. So there are other places where there are predictable access to white sharks, and now we're one of those spots as well. Here's just a video of a white shark doing what it does naturally and going after its prey item. This is off of Monomoy. What's really cool about this, it's the first time that we captured footage of a white shark breaching. So there's a seal, there's a shark, they collide in air, and that seal actually made it up onto the beach. And one of my colleagues says probably never to return to the water again after that happened. But it was pretty amazing to watch something like that. You normally hear about white sharks breaching off of South Africa in air jaws if you watch Discovery Channel. So it was pretty exciting to see that happen here off the coast of Cape Cod. So the presence of these animals off of the coast of Cape Cod, and Kathy had talked about this as well, but it really indicates that we have a healthy marine ecosystem here. But if I say great white shark, do people think immediately about a healthy ecosystem? Or what's the first word that comes to people's minds? So I know Rebecca said that the comment section is open. I don't see it while I'm screen sharing, but what's the first word, if you want to type it into the comment section, that comes to your mind when I say the word great white shark?
You're getting teeth, jaws, danger.
Okay. Well, that pretty much covers most of it. But jaws is probably what we hear more than anything. And I think that people just like automatically their mind goes to that movie when they hear the word great white shark. That's more than one word, but when they hear that species. So Jaws was a fictional movie, and unfortunately, it just created a lot of myths that have carried through today. So at Atlantic White Shark Conservancy, we really work to replace those myths with fact-based information. So to learn as much as we can about the species and share that information. I noted in the video that we all listened to start off the program, which was absolutely amazing to hear that feedback from everyone about wildcare. But understanding species was something that was brought up. And I think it's incredibly important for all of us. We want to provide information so there's a greater understanding of these species and the important role that they play. So with white sharks or great white sharks, which those are interchangeable, they mean the same thing. So I'll probably bounce back and forth with them. But white sharks are apex predators, and that means that they help to maintain balance in a marine ecosystem. So they're really important to marine environments. And how we're learning more about these animals is through research. Research is really at the foundation of Atlantic White Shark Conservancy's mission. It's what we support to learn more about the animals and to provide that information to the public. We are the largest funder of the state's tagging program. That is Dr. Greg Scomo, who works for the Massachusetts Division of Marine Fisheries, and he's at the end of the pulpit tagging a great white shark. When you hear about sharks being tagged off the coast of Cape Cod, it's primarily with an acoustic tag. So this shows you this tag on the shark, which emits a sound, and that sound can be detected by a receiver in the water, and that notes the time and the date and the tag number so that we know which shark it is. Through this information, we have been able to find out when the sharks are coming to the Cape, how long they're staying, what areas that they're spending most of their time in. So it's really valuable information from this tag. And these tags can last now up to 10 years. So you can really collect a lot of data over a long period of time about these animals. So one of the things that we're doing with the data is to share it with public safety officials. And now if you visit a lot of beaches along Cape Cod, we have the data that is on these beach signs. So this shows peak activity, and this is from that tagging data from that particular type of tag that I had mentioned. And what's really valuable about this is you can see that peak times of activity for white sharks off the coast of Cape Cod are August through October. And in September and October, a lot of people are still visiting the beaches because we get those beautiful September days. There are good waves, so surfers are in the water, and we don't have lifeguards on duty. So it's really important for people to have that information and understanding that those are peak times of white shark activity off the coast. This past season, we put 6 real-time receivers in the water, and this was along the outer Cape. This provided real-time data for tag sharks when they swam by this type of equipment. So that was relayed in real time when a shark was within the detection range, which can be up to 500 meters. We also, as an organization, collect information on white shark sightings. This map shows white shark sightings from the research team. And what's significant about this, as you can see, is all of these purple triangles show where a white shark was sighted, and that is completely covering the outer Cape. So it's not necessarily individual sharks. You can see the same shark over and over again, but it really just gives a very good visual of where these sharks are being spotted. So all of this information, the tagging data and the sighting information, is added to a free Sharktivity app. And this is a great place for people to go and learn more about shark activity. We also have a citizen science component here. So if you see a shark, you can actually input that into the Sharktivity app, which is a really valuable resource for scientists to learn more about where these sharks are being spotted when they're not able to be out on the water. In 2019, we started work on studies to learn more about white shark behavior close to shore. So they're hunting in shallow waters close to shore, and we wanted to get a better sense of and better understanding of that kind of behavior. So working with Dr. Greg Skolmel of the Massachusetts Division of Marine Fisheries, we have been tagging sharks with a new type of technology. And you can see the tag here in this picture. It looks like a little blimp. It doesn't stay on the shark for very long, but it collects a tremendous amount of data while it is on the shark. This animation gives you a sense of what we're trying to capture with this type of tag. So the tag is providing information on the depth, the temperature, and then also provides a 3D movement of the shark. So it's giving information on the tail beat, and if the shark is turning from side to side, all of the movement on that is captured so that we can try and have a greater understanding of how these sharks are hunting and what they're doing when they're close to shore. One of the other foundations, in addition to research, of the Conservancy's mission is education. We have a shark center in Chatham, Massachusetts, where you can come and you can learn about shark research, you can learn about shark conservation, and also about how to be a better ocean steward. So it's a great place for adults and youth to come and learn more about what's happening off of our coast and more about this species. We also have partnered with Chatham Bars Inn and Blue Water Entertainment to provide ecotourism trips so that people can get up close and personal with white sharks. Those are small group trips, and we have in September 2 large group trips that we do with whale and dolphin conservation, and those are full day trips. They're called White Shark and whales expedition. And actually, Stephanie has one of those trips on as an auction item for WildCare's fundraiser and auction. So I encourage you to bid on that item because they're really, really a wonderful day to spend the day on the water and get to encounter all of this incredible wildlife that we have off of the coast here. So the Conservancy's tagline is awareness inspires conservation. And we really do think that by raising awareness and the understanding of these species and the important role that they play, that it inspires conservation and inspires people to want to conserve these animals and fosters respect for them. So it's a big part of what we try and do. One of the most incredible experiences that I've had working for the organization that really seemed like people were changing their perception when we talked earlier about what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of white sharks. We really want that to be healthy ecosystems and ocean environment. And in this case, it was a few years ago, I got a call that there was a white shark stranded off of Wellfleet, and I got there and there was nobody really around. There was a pail that was left by a child. So I just used that, was the only thing that I could really do to help the shark at the time to keep its skin moist while I waited for additional help to come. The shark was about 14 feet, so close to probably 2,000 pounds, way too heavy for me to be able to move back in the water. But over time, people started to arrive at the beach, and this was what the scene looked like at the end, which was just everybody on the beach wanting to save this shark. So it was absolutely incredible. They dug a ditch, and we had a rope that we tied to the shark, and eventually this whole group pulled the shark into the water in an attempt to save it, which was just really wonderful to see this kind of effort made for this big apex predator that was struggling on land. Ultimately, we want to save these animals for future generations, and Kathy touched on that as well. It's really important that the incredible wildlife that we enjoy here on the Cape is protected for future generations. And we also work to empower the youth of today so that they can be the future advocates for wildlife and sharks and the ocean. And why do I love WildCare? Oh my gosh, there are so many, many reasons. I think the work that WildCare is doing is absolutely incredible. I'm so excited to be here tonight and to be supporting the organization. The wildlife on Cape Cod is incredibly lucky to have WildCare. My favorite memory is of these three little mice. So I called Stephanie when my husband went to mow the lawn, and he came running upstairs saying that a mouse went running out of the lawnmower and into this shed, and then there were three baby mice that were just scattered around the grass. So I called Stephanie, not having any idea what to do about the situation. And again, going back to one of the volunteers in the video, just saying that they're constantly learning new things. Well, that's how I feel. I'm really blessed to have Stephanie as a friend and to get to just call her up when I have wildlife questions. But she taught me that mother mice are really great moms, which I feel like mice have so many babies, you would never think that. So that was really incredible. And she guided me through where to put these baby mice so that and said that if they were put in the right place and left alone, that the mother should come back for them. And she did. So that was really exciting to have that happen and see these little vulnerable mice be reunited with their mom. But when I think about women in wildlife, Stephanie Ellis is the first person that comes to my mind. she is truly an inspiration because she is a friend. I know firsthand how dedicated she is and passionate about her job. I love this picture because this is Stephanie. We had lunch plans and she had baby birds that need to be fed so frequently that she brought them to lunch with us. And to me, it just showed that she is always on call. She's got a smile on her face. She is just a tireless advocate for wildlife and a spectacular human being. So for those of you with your party in a pail or your own drink at home, I would ask you to join me in raising a glass and toasting to Stephanie Ellis and to the amazing work that she does. Cheers to you, Stephanie.
Okay, before I let you go, Cynthia, you're gonna have to unmute yourself. I have a couple of questions for you. We'll let Stephanie grab a tissue. That was beautiful, thank you. Somebody is asking, they've been reading about noise in the ocean. Are the transmitters heard generally or only by the receivers?
So that the noise from the tags cannot be heard by the sharks. Kathy can maybe speak. I think on a seal side, there had been discussion about putting the same kind of tags on seals, and has been concern about seals being able to hear them, but the sharks are not able to hear that frequency.
Okay. Someone's asking about your shark tours. Can they find that information on your website or do they have to go to the CBI website?
You can find that on our website. Okay. Under expeditions.
Okay. Awesome. I think, let's see. A few people have recommended some documentaries. So if anyone else on here is a shark person, you can check out our chat and there's some really fun, good documentaries that you can check out. Thank you, Cynthia. We really appreciate your time. So before we move on to our next speaker, you get me for another minute. And I am going to say thank you to this beautiful magazine. This is Cape Cod and the Islands magazine. If you got a party in a pail, there is one in there for you to check out. If you didn't get one, you should check them out online or head to your local grocery store or Barnes & Noble or your CVS and pick up a copy. It is locally owned. I know the owners of it personally, and not only it is a beautiful, amazing, locally owned, locally produced magazine, but they really do focus on trying to highlight all of the amazing things that happen here locally on Cape Cod and on the islands. I will tell you that they are both huge animal lovers. They've named every single chicken that they have, and I think they have like 30 of them. So I can tell you from personal knowledge, they love wild care and they love supporting us. They are relatively new this year. They have about 4 issues under our belt. Next one's coming out in the spring. But if you pick up the issue that came out in December, it goes through March. You can find it on your newsstands. There's a great article in there by Mike O'Connor, who owns Birdwatchers General Store, who is also another wonderful supporter of ours. And he has a great sense of humor. So if you're a birder, you're not going to want to miss it. So thank you so much, guys. Cape Cod and the Islands magazine. They were not only our media sponsor, but they helped us with some auction items and have featured us in the magazine. And it's been a truly wonderful relationship. So we're very grateful to them. So let's see. Staff wish list. If you haven't heard enough about it, I am going to ride on the coattails of Kathy's comment and tell you that technology is the biggest thing on our wish list right now. We are doing some upgrades, and with all of us being remote, having the best, newest technology so that we can all stay networked and provide not only the best care for our patients, but the best communication for people that are looking to reach us to save more lives and to stay in constant communication with our volunteers and our staff so that everyone stays safe and healthy. We are fundraising for a couple of iPad minis. So if you are compelled to help us with some of our new technology, you can pop over to our staff wish list and maybe contribute to that. Or our admin, Carrie, that you saw in the video, she needs a new laptop, and she is seriously a cog in this wheel that we cannot live without. Daily, the woman works every single day. So we're fundraising for that laptop so you can work from home a little bit more and stay nice and safe in this pandemic. Okay, one more thing before I let you go. That was some sexy shark stuff. So now that you're all jazzed up about sharks, we have a couple of great shark things, but honestly, shark spotting. Wayne Davis has generously donated being able to go shark spotting in his plane with him. He is amazing. Some of the pictures that Cynthia used in her presentation were provided by Wayne, and he guarantees you'll see sharks. Guaranteed, absolutely. So go bid on that absolutely priceless item and get up on a plane with Wayne and see what you can see. I will share that link with you in just a minute. So I think we are getting down this list here. And I'm going to introduce our third speaker. Our third speaker is Priya Patel. She is of Birdsey Cape Wildlife Center, a program of the New England Wildlife Centers. It's a long one. Sorry, Priya. So I'm going to turn things over to her now.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. I'm just going to share my screen here if I can find it. All right. First of all, I'd just like to thank Stephanie and Wildcare and Rebecca for putting this amazing event together. I truly feel honored to have been invited to speak. And I really feel fortunate to be in this field with so many amazing people dedicating their lives to such a worthy cause. Thank you everyone for coming tonight, and please support this wonderful organization and go bid on their items. I am a wildlife veterinarian, and I count myself very fortunate to be able to say that. It is a field that I wake up every morning excited to go to work. I never know what's going to walk through the doors, and although it may not be glamorous, as Stephanie and Jennifer and everyone at Wildcare can attest to, it's a very rewarding field to be in. I graduated from the Rural Veterinary College and then concentrated in wildlife medicine at Tufts. And I'm now the medical director at the New England Wildlife Centers. And I have a special interest in avian medicine and surgery. And I feel so fortunate to be able to donate my skills to organizations that care for wildlife. The New England Wildlife Centers, for those who don't know, we run two wildlife hospital and educational centers, one on the Cape in Barnstable and the other in Weymouth. And our whole motto is kindness to people and animals. Yes, we're serving the wildlife population, but we're also serving our local communities at the same time. And we run a variety of services. Besides being a wildlife hospital, we run commercial veterinary groups and have an exotic pet practice. We provide veterinary services for the Museum of Science and other organizations like Mass Audubon, Drumlin Farm, and Capron Park Zoo in Attleboro. But above all else, as everyone has said, education is at our forefront. Before COVID, we were in classrooms alongside students helping teach their core STEM principles. Now with COVID, we try to be right there virtually, and then we invite students into our clinic to watch us do procedures and treat animals. And we also feel research is a really important aspect to wildlife medicine and rehabilitation. As we all know too well this year, infectious diseases generally start in the wildlife populations. And as rehabilitators and wildlife veterinarians, we're at the forefront seeing those changes in illnesses, seeing those animals present with different, diseases. And it's our job to monitor that and then, speak out if we're seeing a change in that. So we work really hard to be part of several research or projects. And advocacy. We advocate for our wild patients. We advocate for the environment because we only have one Earth and we need to protect it. This year, due to COVID, we started a pilot rescue service because we wanted to limit interaction with the public to keep exposures down and keep everybody safe, we started going out and rescuing animals. And I love doing that. Getting out of the clinic, getting into the field is great. As a veterinarian, I'm able to sedate animals to safely capture them in dangerous situations. This is me in a dumpster. This was in Plymouth, and this raccoon was stuck in one of the drainage holes, and animal control tried to get it out, but it was just too fractious to do it safely. So I was able to sedate it and pull it out, and we were able to rehabilitate it. And as a nonprofit wildlife hospital, we invite students in, and we run several internship programs because we believe in conservation through education. And for the 150 animals we have in-house, each one is a teaching moment. And we can take students from all levels of education, teach them what we're doing, and have them carry on that stewardship. Between both hospitals, we see about 5,000 patients each year, and they range in all different sizes and all different life stages. And we treat over 220 species of wildlife, and that's an amazing number of species. And that's all allowed because of the diverse ecosystems that the Cape has to offer. We live in a beautiful community, which is why it's such a popular destination spot. And it allows for so many different species to grow and call this their home. But at the same time, and this is our job, to keep these habitats as clean as possible, help the wildlife that are within them. And we can't do that alone. WildCare mirrors many of our same beliefs, and it really takes a lot of teamwork to be able to continue to do what we do. And wildlife is so fortunate to have not one, but 2 wildlife facilities on Cape Cod. If you have to be a injured wildlife, it's really fortunate that you have a great facility like WildCare to be brought to and be treated. So I just wanted to thank everyone at WildCare, Stephanie, Jennifer, all of the techs there. You guys are doing an amazing job, and I'm so proud to work alongside of you, especially this year because of COVID. You guys never closed your doors. You were able to keep taking in all those animals. So again, thank you so much. We collaborate on a lot of things together, and it's never a dull moment. I just wanted to take these last few minutes to talk about 2 cases we worked on together this past year. And the first is the sandhill crane. And we don't get a lot of sandhill cranes on the Cape. Occasionally we can see a few, but this guy became quite the celebrity this summer. And he actually presented to WildCare with an injury under his neck. And he was a very crazy bird, and they unfortunately weren't able to send me a picture so that I could assess it. But Jennifer, I believe she drew this picture, and props to Jennifer. It's quite a great picture, very anatomically correct. And he unfortunately had a wound underneath his neck that had some muscle and tendon sticking out. And it appeared to be communicating with the inside of the mouth and the tongue structure. So we were able to sedate him safely and surgically repair that wound. And my biggest concern with him was whether he'd be able to eat properly. So this was taken from a cage cam a couple days after surgery. And he's doing quite well. And so our hopes would have been to transfer him back to WildCare for release. However, being as crazy as he was, we felt that it was safer to release him on site. So Stephanie was able to join us for his release. And so our property backs up to ponds and wetlands. So we were able to safely walk him or escort him out of his cage down to the pond. And then he could freely, stay as he wished or move on his way. But I'll never forget this case. And then throughout the rest of the summer, we kept getting reports of sightings of the sandhill crane. The community fondly named him Ned, and we get calls almost every day letting us know where on the Cape he was. And he actually did make his way back up towards Eastham and Orleans, which was really cool. And then later on in the summer, the sightings became rare, so we feel like he moved on. But he survived and for many weeks after rehab. So thank you to Stephanie and her staff for getting him to us. And then this last case is an eastern gray squirrel that I believe Stephanie's neighbor found injured. We don't know how he sustained this injury. We believe it was a possible hit by car, but he fractured his humerus, which is this bone in the arm right here. And it's a difficult repair to do. You could try to just cast it. However, they move around a lot, so it wouldn't heal properly. So WildCare got the squirrel over to us, and I was able to surgically repair the arm. We placed a pin going through the bone to stabilize, and then we bandaged it. And besides the surgery, treating squirrels, it has challenges to itself. They are also pretty crazy. You can see a trend in some of the patients we treat. And in order to keep him from chewing at his bandage, we placed an e-collar around him. I was surprised I was able to find one small enough. And in these pictures, he's still coming out of anesthesia. That's why he looks so tired. But throughout his recovery period, which was about 6 weeks for the bone to heal, we needed to keep him quiet enough that he could still eat and maintain a healthy weight, but not too crazy where he would, mess up his cast and potentially pull his pins out. So that was a challenge in and of itself. And so here we see after I think it was after 7 weeks at this point, we put him outside to see how his arms were doing. And so his right arm was the broken one. So in a minute, you'll see right here, this is it right here. And we're looking to see, if he can bear weight on it, if he can climb properly. And he's doing everything we were hoping that he would do. He climbs really well with it. And I actually had to video it and then slow it down to be able to monitor it, because you'll see in a minute in real time how fast he actually was. And so we were really happy with the results, and I was thrilled to be able to video this and show this to Stephanie. And we were in fact able to catch him safely to return him to WildCare so that he could be released where he was found. So this was a very challenging case, but I'm very happy that we were able to have such a successful release together. So I just want to thank everybody again for all that they do to support wildlife and WildCare. It's a great organization and they do so much for wildlife. So thank you again for everything.
Thank you, Priya. That was awesome. I love those cuties at the end. Let's see. People made a lot of really positive comments, but apparently there are a lot of sandhill cranes other places, but I can tell you we also got a lot of spotting and comments on our Facebook saying, I saw him here, I saw him there. So it was an exciting season for sure with Ned. So thank you. For those of you that don't know about these organizations, you should check all of them out online. I have put hot links underneath each one of our speakers' bios on wildcarecapecod.org. You can go to events and read about each one of our speakers, or you can head over to our Facebook and learn more about them there. And you should be liking all of us on social media so that we can keep you up to date on all the cuteness and all the fun that we're having, and even the not fun that we might be having. So I need to say a very big thank you to Dune Jewelry. For those of you that got a party in a pail, you got a cute little packet that looks like this. It either has a necklace or a bracelet in it that is made with Cape Cod sand. The CEO and founder, Holly, is actually from Cape Cod. She lives off Cape now, but her business is still Massachusetts based. Yep, Kathy's showing off hers. I'm very excited to have mine. I almost wore it, but I didn't want to spoil it. Dune is a huge supporter of Wild Care. They have, Holly worked with animals when she was in high school here on the Cape, and that has stuck with her. And she loves the mission here at Wild Care. You heard her in that beginning video, and she did a wonderful week of giving for us before the holidays. She donated all of this jewelry for us to fundraise for this event. So each one of them would have cost us more than we could have afforded to get them for each one of you. So we're very, very grateful for that. And be watching your email and be watching our Facebook, because we're doing another week of giving with them where a portion of the proceeds will come back to Wild Care in March. I believe it's at the beginning of March. So be watching for that, especially if you're a jewelry fan or if you have someone in your life that is, it's a great gift. I am going to also now tell you, because I am now infamous or famous, I hope it's famous and not infamous, but for telling you that if you don't know about everything that's going on at Wild Care, you need to sign up for DuckTales. It's our monthly newsletter. I will keep you up to date on the patients that we have, the patients that we did have, what happened with them, what we might need, and what exciting things are coming up so that you can make sure that you don't miss any of our virtual educational offerings or any of our events coming up this year as things evolve and change. So I would love it if you signed up for that. The link is right on our website as well. I also have to tell you that every single $5 matters at Wild Care. Stephanie's going to tell you again, but I have to tell you, every single $5 matters to Wild Care. And when you donate to us, you truly are saving a life and helping save the ecosystem here on the Cape, which is important to all of us as good humans, but also our tourism industry and so much more. So every time you donate, you can feel good about it, because I promise we're putting it to very, very good use. I also need to say a special thank you to Finizzi's Restaurant by the Sea and Paul Finizzi, their owner. He was a huge sponsor of this event this year. They really believe in animal conservation. And if you have not had their food, you should definitely check them out. They're right off Commercial Street in Provincetown. They're wonderful. You should support them and all of our local business owners, especially our restaurants. They really need us this time of year, always on the Cape, but this year especially. So now, if you got a party in a pail, it's time for dessert, my friends. So I don't know if you got one of these or one of these, but as the marketing director, I got one of each. So tear into that cookie or that brownie. They're both amazingly delicious. These were prepared for us by the Bashful Tart Bakery in South Yarmouth. Sarah, the owner, is local. She's an awesome advocate of ours, a big supporter. She's also an opera singer, and she does a lot of theater here on the Cape. So if you want to support her bakery, we'd love that. If you want to support her theater, her name is Sarah Sneed. She has a knockout voice, and she is not to be missed. So I promise you'll enjoy it. To learn more about the businesses that we have partnered with and to support them, you can log onto our website. I have links to everyone. Also, those sponsors are listed on our auction webpage. So I'm going to share that link with you in just a couple of minutes. And if ever there's any questions, always email me. I'm just an email away to hopefully help you with any questions you have about Wild Care. So without further ado, we are to our last speaker. This speaker needs very little introduction, I think. Stephanie Ellis is my fearless leader. She is the dedicated leader of Wild Care. She is constantly, I think, wearing an invisible cape, as you have heard from other people. She is a hero amongst us. We are incredibly lucky to have her. I can tell you she is not only one of the best people that I have ever known, but she is one of the best bosses I have ever had. I am eternally lucky. And I will thank you all personally for supporting Wild Care, because I get to do my dream job every single day because of your $5. So thank you so much to all of you for joining. And without further ado, I will turn you over to Stephanie Ellis.
Okay, can you hear me? Excellent. That was quite the greeting, Rebecca. Thank you. And I need to say, can we please give a round of applause to our most amazing marketing director for doing an incredible job this evening and doing an extraordinary amount of work to help make this event successful. Rebecca, you are my right arm. So thank you. I also need to say thank you again to Priya and Kathy and Cynthia. I feel very spoiled to call you all friends, and I'm so honored to have you as colleagues. And like Priya said, Wildlife on Cape Cod is so very lucky, and wildlife in North Carolina is so lucky because we got this. Between all of us, we've got them covered. So thank you. I have a quick presentation just to talk about our year 2020 and how you all have been so incredibly important to us. So last year was the most challenging year on record, I think, for all of us in many different ways. And what had happened last year was, in March, when this apocalypse came down upon us, we had initially thought that we wouldn't see as many animals. People were in lockdown. And in fact, the complete reverse happened. One silver lining of COVID was that more people were outdoors enjoying wildlife. It was a respite from the difficult times we were in. So the reality was that despite COVID and all the uncertainty, there were some things that were very certain. The need was still there for animals. Our helpline was still ringing off the hook. Animals were being impacted by people, hit by cars, trees being taken down. And it became, immediately clear that we had to do everything we could to keep our doors open. And of course, considering all the safety concerns, first and foremost, our staff and volunteers need to be safe. And then also fundraising concerns. The future of in-person events was extremely uncertain. And so we had to become extremely creative, I will say, with our fundraising, hence this event. However, there were some silver linings during our COVID year. For one, the generosity from the public was absolutely outstanding. You guys were really there for us, and we could feel the love, and you helped us to keep our doors open. And so thanks to you, we helped over 300 aquatic birds get their sea legs again. Birds like this dovekie, who actually, he hasn't been released quite yet. He's still in our care. We're working on waterproofing, but he's doing really, really well. My staff has done an incredible job with him. We also have given sea legs again to this beautiful Atlantic puffin who was released just this afternoon. So hot off the puffin press, I have some photos of that release from today. So in 2020, you helped us to rehabilitate over 300 aquatic birds. And 44 of those were alcids, which refers to the dovekies, the puffins, the razorbills, the murres, and their allies. And this year already, we've seen 11 birds in that family. Love these photos. Thanks to you, in 2020, so many hundreds of orphaned mammals found a mom in us. So animals that had lost their mother were brought to us for care, and some of them received round-the-clock care by my dedicated staff. And you can see Eastern cottontails, that's the most mammal that we see within a year. And I have to thank Christine Beebe. She is our rabbit rehabilitator. She's volunteer, and she actually rehabs any of the babies who need to be nursed. So thank you, Christine. You can see we received a lot of squirrels, a lot of mice, and I feel really great in knowing that we get a lot of these animals back out and provided very intensive care. Babies are a lot of work, not just human babies, also squirrel babies and mouse babies. Thanks to you, ducks of a feather once again flocked together. And so we received 67 sea ducks in 2020 and 13 sea ducks already in 2021. I love these two birds are common eider, a type of sea duck that we see in abundance in the winter months. And these two birds were rehabilitated and released. You can see the release photos on the right. Thanks to you. We rehabilitated 43 raptors, and many of those are back in the wild doing what they do best, which is hunting prey, keeping our rodent populations down in our backyards, or our insect populations. Or in the case of, if you're an osprey or an eagle, you would be eating primarily fish. This beautiful great horned owl on the left was a victim of rodenticide poisoning. The bird was rescued in Orleans, and fortunately, with my staff's care, made a complete recovery and was released. And this little eastern screech owl, Red Morph, was hit by a car in Eastham, and also thanks to my caring and skilled staff, was rehabilitated and released. So back out in the wild to be on the prowl, which is what they do. Thanks to you, we gave wings to those who could not fly. A big part of what WildCare does in the spring and summer months is take care of baby birds. And we saw over 300 songbirds pass through our clinic in 2020. And most of those, some of them are adults, but most of those are orphan birds. And here's where I also need to give a huge shout out to our volunteers, because our volunteers, despite COVID, we had volunteers who came and assisted with the baby bird program in a very safe way and contributed over 800 hours last year just to feed those little mouths and keep them all clean and fed and happy. Our volunteers are incredible. We couldn't do our work without them. Thanks to you, not only did we survive 2020, but we actually thrived. And I am so in awe of the generosity of the community and our volunteers. So many organizations felt an enormous strain last year, and I feel very grateful that we did very well and we were able to fulfill our mission. Last year, we were able to rehabilitate 1,812 animals. We kept our staff, our volunteers, our interns, and our rescuers, meaning people who brought us animals, we were able to keep them safe. We answered over 11,000 phone calls to our emergency helpline and purchased necessary equipment and supplies because of your support. We just purchased 2 large chest freezers. We purchased another oxygen machine, and basically continued to get the equipment and supplies that we need. We renovated our baby animal room, which we call our Jackie room, renovated in memory of Jackie Nenner. We hired our incredible marketing director last year in March, which was an absolute gift, huge silver lining in a COVID year to be able to have her on board. Hired 6 interns, thanks to the Kelly Foundation support, and 6 amazing seasonal rehab assistants, thanks to the Cabot Foundation. We could not stop the momentum. A big part of what WildCare does is to help to educate people and provide them alternatives to reduce impacts on wildlife and teach people how to coexist with wildlife. And so even though we couldn't do as many things in person, we went virtual education programs, Facebook Live every Friday, and we were able to reach literally thousands of people and from all over the world, which is, one incredible thing. This pandemic has enabled us to reach out in a way that we never have. And most of all, because of you, we kept our doors open last year to all of these animals in need. That is a really big deal. And I feel that first video we showed, the Voices of WildCare, Peter Kazuski, he's a very important volunteer to us. And he said they kept their doors open. It was so important. All of these animals and people needed us. And so I know you have heard a few things about me, but really the reason my job is so easy is because of these incredible WildCare women of wildlife, these amazing individuals. They are the ones behind the scenes doing all the work. They give me these stories and then I get to tell them. So my job is the fun part. This is Jennifer Taylor. She's our animal care coordinator and internship coordinator. Leah Merbeck, she is a wildlife rehabilitator. Rebecca Banis, she's our director of marketing, outreach and events. Rachel Wojak, she is our new acting volunteer coordinator and wildlife rehab assistant. Carrie Reed is our office admin and our photographer extraordinaire on our staff. Janae Hassan, she is a wildlife rehab assistant with us. And Karen Eldridge is a wildlife rehabilitator, who is also with us. And I'm thrilled also to tell you that of all these beautiful faces who work absolutely tirelessly and are so dedicated, just this year we were able to actually, Janae's position was seasonal, but with your support, we are keeping her for this entire year. And also Karen was a seasonal position as a rehabber, and we are keeping her permanently part-time. Rachel was a seasonal position. We're keeping her permanently as our acting volunteer coordinator and rehab assistant. And amazing, amazing. All these women wear capes and I love them. They are the face behind WildCare. And to all of them, I just want to say thank you. I can't see them. Okay, so my ending slides. All of these, everything I just mentioned today, these are success stories that happen every single day at WildCare because of my staff, the volunteers, the interns, the donors, the colleagues. And so something amazing that just happened today is our Atlantic puffin, who is a celebrity puffin, high profile patient. We have had this bird for a few weeks. He was blown in related to a storm. He beached in Barnstable on the Bayside, and he was extremely underweight and not waterproof. And so my staff, with their amazing care, they got this puffin fat and waterproof and conditioned, and he was just released this afternoon. And so Carrie took these awesome photos. So, we go from swim time to release time. And this is Jennifer Taylor releasing the bird today, and they don't look back. So I'm thrilled that we were able to get this bird out the door. It's another success story at WildCare that I feel really, really great about. I just have a few end slides to thank some special people. There's a very special woman named Jan Raphael, who has been the volunteer coordinator for this event for 4 years. And I just need to thank her for her service. She has brought WildCare's Wild Winter Night event to another level, and we are so grateful for all of her time and dedication. I also want to thank our amazing volunteers who have helped us with many different aspects of Wild Winter Night, including soliciting all these 70+ donations of items. And Carrie Reed, she is our office admin, and she put together 100 of these pails, and that is no small task. And so I just want to thank all of you for all your work that you've put into supporting us for this event. And last but not least, tomorrow is Valentine's Day. So I strongly encourage you to go onto our auction site now. And even though you won't have the auction item in hand tomorrow for your loved one, because bidding closes on Monday, you can still show your loved one that you're the top bidder for the whale and shark expedition or for a favorite piece of jewelry. So I hope that you will go and bid and find something that you love and that you win it. Okay, I'm going to go back to Rebecca.
That wraps it up for us this evening. I have shared a bunch of great information in the chat with you. You also got the auction link when you got your ticket confirmation. So bid well, bid often. We need to raise around $30,000 with this event so that we can save more animals and make it to the next chapter. So if you want to help us do that, that is a great way to do it. And you're going to get an awesome thing in return. It doesn't go into the ether. I promise we will do great, great work with it and save as many animals as we possibly can and educate as many people as we can. So don't forget to sign up for things with us throughout the year. And the more you bid, the higher you bid, the more lives we can save. So thank you so much, all of you, for joining us. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you for the in-kind folks that donated all of the items that you're gonna now log off of here and go directly to Accel Events. So don't have dinner, don't have, you had your treat. So now right to the auction site. Okay, good, thank you. I see a lot of thumbs up. I appreciate that. So seriously, everyone, thank you so much. We could not have done this without you. We would not have made it through this year without you. And certainly we need you to make it to the next year and save more and more lives. So here we are. We're going to keep saving lives, $5 at a time. Go bid, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much, and happy Valentine's Day. Mwah.